Hey, all you creators out there. This is your boy, Ike Allred, coming at you with another episode of Create or Die. Now, this time, we're going to do things a little bit different. We're going to take a journey, and I'd like you to join me on that journey. So if you're ready, if you want to learn how to create your future in just 6 steps, then this is the podcast for you. Let's do this thing. If you're still here, that's awesome. You've made it through the intro of what's going to be an amazing episode. It's episode 36, my friends. We've got 35 episodes preceding this. Now, if you haven't listened to them all, you've only listened to 1 or 2, or watched a handful, whatever, go on back to the beginning. Check it out. See where this all began. When I was lamenting in the dark with no video, no camera on, and just talking to myself. And you'll see that we've come a long way, for sure. In fact, we've come so far that we're starting to do these little product placement things. Now, try to keep it sly, kind of sneak it in there. Like, for example, have you ever been thinking to yourself, my mouth, it's kind of dry. It's been without that caramelly goodness that only one candy can resolve. Have you ever thought that? Well, you know what you need to do? You need to roll on into a pack of Rolos, okay? You take that sleeve, pop 1, 2, maybe 3, and that need for caramelly, milk chocolatey goodness is going to be fulfilled. All right? So you get you one of them sleeves of Rolos. I'd like to thank the Hershey Corporation for not paying us for this advert, and that way we can just do it how we want. If they were to pay us, they probably put some type of restraints around how it is we're going to portray their flagship sleeved candy on our program. We don't need that. Now, in today's episode, I promised to take you on a journey, and I'm going to give it to you all up front. So if you're like, Ike, I don't have 30 minutes or whatever to dedicate to today's episode, I've got like 5, and you've already about burned that up. Just tell me, what are those 6 steps? I'm going to tell you right now. Number 1, define your story. Number 2, find your voice. And number 3, always be learning. Number 4, leverage your unique experience. Number 5, demonstrate your value. And 6, establish habits. It's that simple. Now, for those of you who are done, it's been real. Don't forget to like and subscribe on your way out, because we just made your life easier. You don't have to listen to the rest of the episode unless you want to get the meat behind those 6 steps. The true secrets, the magic between the lines, if you will. Okay, we're going to bring on some virtual guests from a little place I like to call TikTok Wonderland. And we're going to queue them up. We're going to slide them in. We're going to listen. We're going to comment on those things. We're going to pull it all together. Do you really want to miss that? I didn't think so. Step number 1, define your story. So what does that mean in the grand scheme of things? Well, what is it that you're trying to accomplish? Where is it that you want to go? What does success look like for you? What kind of life do you want to create for yourself? The key there is create. And I would add, for yourself, not for someone else, not what do you want to create for a perceived audience that will hopefully pick up what you're putting down. Instead, forget about that. Be selfish about this one. And to help us kind of figure this out a little bit better, I'd like to invite my first guest, Miss Zoe Lister-Jones. Let's see what Zoe's got to say. Play that clip.
For anyone in any creative pursuit, making something with an audience in mind, to me, is always sort of like the death knell, you know? Mm-hmm. Like, make something that you want to make. Like, what is the story you want to tell? And that's what you put out into the world. Because when you start to be, I think, product-oriented over process-oriented, yeah, it can get you into some trouble. I think you just have to keep going. And I think making your own work is really important. Like, Daryl and I made work in the face of 1,000 no's by just going and doing it ourselves. How to grow as an artist is to do things that you don't know how to do.
Right. And
I love that. Do things that you don't know how to do. You know, when you're telling this story, you don't have to say, what is it that I know how to do right now? What can I phone in because I've done it a million times? No, if you're really trying to create a life for yourself, create something new, something special, you're gonna have to blaze trails, okay? So don't worry about what it is you know how to do. Go and get you some of that stuff that you don't know how to do, okay? Like I said before, this applies to creating a life you want for yourself or creating that next amazing revolutionary piece in any of its forms, be it video, animation, illustration, design, music, and so forth. So, number 1, define your story. Number 2, find your voice. So each of us is unique. Each of us has a different life experience, and each of us are striving to share what it is that's important to us. Now, step 2, find your voice. What is it that you uniquely have to share? Well, let's cue up our next guest. This guy needs no introduction. Mr. Billy Corgan from a little band I like to call the Smashing Pumpkins. Yep, that's right. One and the same. The front man, Billy. Let's see what Billy's got to share, okay? Roll that clip.
The biggest mistake the entertainment business makes over and over again is it only deals with the known. True artists are seeking something that doesn't exist. Yeah, it's super uncomfortable.
Yeah. Art, it's uncomfortable. And true art is doing something that you don't know if it's going to be successful or not. You don't know if others are going to relate to it. You're going to make some people mad. You're blazing new trails, you know. You're doing something that hasn't been done before. So, yeah, find your voice. What is it that you uniquely have to share? And that's going to be key. Now, there are other paths. You can follow the path that I've unfortunately fell into far too often, and that of going with the flow, you know, leaning too hard on what others think or what others have established as the design aesthetic for the year or the decade or whatever. And too often in commercial art, I'm afraid, we have bosses, clients, stakeholders, whoever that want to point to something else that's out there and say, hey, this is working. Have you seen what they've done? Let's, without copying it, let's just kind of do that. Okay. And sometimes that pays the bills, but are you truly being an artist at that point? No. And if that's your game, that's cool. And candidly and honestly, like I've said, that's where I find myself a lot of times. And so these 6 steps are for me as much as they are for you. And I'm looking to, on the side, outside of my day job, build something lasting, something different. For example, this CRE8 podcast and brand, initially the color palette, the look, that was just pulled together quickly. I had some people that hated it, I had some people that loved it, and over time, I've found more of a direction and a voice for this brand, and it will continue to evolve because it's a living thing, and I'm discovering who I am through this process and finding my voice. And sometimes my voice is a little scratchy, or maybe irksome to some. So, number 2, find your voice. And number 3, always be learning. Now, my good friend and colleague, Mr. Bryce Nobles, a couple years ago, shared with me the fact that he reads a book a week. And this guy's, 10, 12 years younger than me and infinitely smarter. He's amazing. We've had him on the program a couple times anyways. Go back, check him out. Anyways, I was inspired to learn more from him. My junior, if you will, but my senior in a lot of ways. And so, with as busy as we are, you don't always have time to sit down and read a physical book. But in this beautiful day and age of technology, you can pull that book up on Audible. Turn it up. Turn up the speed to 2x or 3x if you're really trying to plow through it. But I find that for a lot of books, 2x is great. I can get through it in 4 or 5 hours while I'm working at my day job or commuting and just soaking it in. And because I was able to race through it so quickly, I can listen to it again. I'm on my second, third listen or on a few of these books. And for some of them, I've gone out and purchased either the Kindle digital version or the hard copy so that I could reference certain points that I learned from the audio. And it's been amazing. It's been absolutely transformative. So to help reinforce what it is I'm saying here, let's hear from another podcaster, someone who has probably got a slightly bigger audience than me, Mr. Rob Dyrdek, I think that's how you say it, on learning. What does Rob have to say? Let's play that clip.
If you want a better life, you have got to be incredibly intentional about what you learn. And if you organize what you learn into a framework that the more you learn about it, the more value it creates in your life, that is going to be the quickest and fastest path to realizing a better version of yourself, a better life, and your dreams in general. That's how important organized, purposeful learning can be for you.
Poetry, man. He laid it out there real well. Intentional learning, a framework for learning, and that comes from knowing what it is that your story is going to look like. What does success look like for you, and then what are the things you need to learn to get there. Step 4, leverage your unique experience. Now, we've talked about this a little bit in the past about finding your voice, again, referring back to step 2. But what is it that you uniquely bring? What have you done with your life? And this may feel like you're starting over, but like Mel Robbins, who is yet another podcaster and author and all the things. She has a little something to say on this that I find pretty inspiring. So let's go ahead and roll that clip, shall we?
First of all, everybody, you're never starting over. You're always starting from experience. You have all the experiences, good and bad, in your life that you can now use to reinvent and reimagine what the next chapter of your life looks like next. And I love this topic of reinvention. The metaphor that I use is a road trip. It's about creating a map, picking a destination.
So reinvent yourself. It's never too late. You know, the best time to start was a year ago. The next best time is right now. All right? Because how often do we look back on life and with perfect vision, hindsight 2020, right? We say, man, if I would have started that podcast or YouTube channel 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, where would I be now? You know, if I would have taken that leap to that other field that I've been looking to break into, maybe I'm a commercial designer, but deep down inside, I really want to be a concept artist for Lucasfilm. You know, what does that look like? Does that mean that I need to start over, start from scratch, throw in the towel, these 15 years wasted essentially? No, because like Mel Robbins said, we're never completely starting over. We're always starting from a new place of experience. What have we gone to? How does leveraging my design background, and this is all hypothetical, of course, how does leveraging my design background help better inform my work as a concept artist for Lucasfilm on the reboot of Star Wars in 10 years from now or whatever? You know, give that a thought, give that a think. Love it. So, number 4, demonstrate your unique. No, number 4, leverage your unique experience. On to number 5. We're almost there. We've just got 2 more. Number 5, demonstrate your value. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means rather than me trying to, and we're using this hypothetical, idea again, rather than me submitting an application to Lucasfilm with my design portfolio and saying, hey, I promise I can create concept artists that's, applicable to what it is all y'all are doing. Rather than doing that, they're going to be like, next. I've got to first go out there and say, what does concept art look like to me? I'm going to create that. I'm going to come up with a situation. I'm going to take what I think Lucasfilm or ILM or Disney, Pixar, whatever might be working on, and I'm going to create my version of what's next. Go back to my unique voice. What is it that I have to share? How can I differentiate rather than just looking at what other concept artists do and trying to emulate that style and hoping that will land me that job? I need to show, hey, this is what I can do. And to help kind of distill that down into something that makes sense, we're going to cue up this next clip here from a talented guy, author, businessman, influencer, Mr. Alex Hormozy. So let's go ahead and roll that clip.
If you want a job at Mosey Media, don't say, hey, how can I provide value to Mosey Media? Go take all the content that we have that's out there, cut it up, and demonstrate that you actually have the skill and are valuable. And the cool thing is that there is no timeline for how long it took you to do the thing. And so you have the advantage of actually taking maybe more time than you otherwise would to make the thing awesome. Show the value, don't talk about the value that you might someday deliver.
How important is that? And I've seen this play out time and time again in my career where, opportunities arise for myself or colleagues, and they're being challenged by their manager or an executive or something like, hey, this opportunity has presented itself. We think you could potentially do that. Would you be willing to take on these extra responsibilities and show us that you're the man or the gal or the person for the job? And I've seen people respond in two different ways. You've got the camp of people who say, okay, well, yeah, I could do that, but how much more money are you going to pay me an hour? Like, because you're asking me to do more than my job description. Am I really going to do work for free? Okay, so there's that camp. Then you've got the other group of people that look at that as an opportunity to prove themselves and say, yeah, boss, sign me up. That sounds like a great opportunity. I'm ready to rise to the occasion. And then they go and knock it out of the park, and they show relatively quickly that they can do it, and they've also helped that boss out of a jam, because here's someone left the company and they've got a hole that needed to be filled. You stepped up and you filled it. So now you've proven to that individual that you're reliable and that you're willing to do what it takes. And I promise you, you're going to be rewarded tenfold for that approach, rather than the latter, where it's like this small mindset of, oh, well, if I'm going to do more work, I need to get paid more per hour, like immediately. You can't expect me, that's not the way to do it, my friends. Okay? So on paper, it might seem that way, but what ends up happening in that scenario is the boss says, oh wow, are you really that busy or not interested in what it is I'm asking you to do? Because I'm asked to do crazy stuff that isn't part of my job description all the time, and I just find a way, but you're not. So let me look at you a little bit more closely. Maybe I need to rethink why you're here in the first place. And so it can actually impact your current position that you're trying to protect. So you might think to yourself, I just wanted to coast. I'd gotten this job, I'm just going to coast. I'm going to put in my time. In this ever increasing world of competition and dog eat dog, there's no such thing as coasting. There's no such thing as, hey, I've made it to a certain point, now I'm just going to ride it out till retirement. Because if you're not growing, if you're not expanding, if you're not constantly proving your value, demonstrating your value, then I'm afraid you're going in the other direction. You may not notice it. You may feel like, hey, I'm doing the same thing I was doing 5 years ago, putting out the same amount of work. Well, that company has been investing in you for those 5 years, and they expect a return on their investment. They expect you to get better and faster and more knowledgeable about the product, not just getting the same thing. That's for the drones of this world. That's for the people that work in an assembly line that are cogs in a machine, not for builders or creators, which is what we're talking about. So, number 5, demonstrate your value. Here we are, number 6 in the 6 steps to creating your future, the future you want for your own self. Number 6, establish habits. All right, because it's gonna get hard out there. You're not always gonna wake up and be cheery-eyed and bushy-tailed and ready to attack the day and be 100% motivated. So what do you do to still get that stuff done? Well, we've got our final guest on the program, Mr. Ed Millett, YouTuber, author, executive coach, #MaxOut. He's one of those guys that can be a little intense, and like I talked in a previous episode, maybe puts too much emphasis on the alpha male type thing, but for what he has to say here makes sense. So let's go ahead and roll that clip.
How did you stay motivated all the time? People ask me that all the time, and the answer is I didn't, and neither did you to become successful. The separator in life is really important. People think the most inspired, motivated person wins. Nah, not really. It's the person who can work on the days they're not inspired and motivated. It's what do you do when you're not feeling great? What do you do when it's not your best day? How do you do that? Carries you through is rituals and habits.
So rituals and habits. And how true is that? And as I've tried to do more in my life, I've got the day job, I've got the family life, which is great and can consume me. I've got responsibilities outside of work and family, like with church and volunteering and differently, which I could be way better at. And then on top of all that, I'm looking to, do things for myself, have hobbies, build this Create or Die brand, create content on YouTube and on the socials to help get the word out that what we're talking about here is worth picking up. Knowledge nugs abound. Now, if you don't get that inside joke about knowledge nugs, it goes way back. So again, another cue that you should go back and listen or watch all these episodes. But I digress. I apologize. So how do you establish those habits? How do you dig deep and push through? And I've seen in my life that having things to focus on, minding my own business, as one might learn in reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and the author's name escapes me, horrible. But he talks about in there how important it is to mind your own business. Now, that doesn't mean stay out of other people's personal business. Instead, it means what are you doing to build assets for yourself that will pay dividends over the long haul. Because if you have a day job, you're working for someone, you're helping to enrich them, you're helping them to become successful. They're able to step away from the business and just cash in. But what about yourself? Are you just hoping to have a meager retirement someday and just kind of barely make ends meet with your 401k and a social security system that may or may not exist at that time? Well, don't leave it to others. Do it yourself. Build something on the side. What are assets that you can create? In Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he talks about income producing investments like real estate that you're going to rent out. And so it's going to pay the mortgage, and then you're going to collect a little bit on top of that as well. And that continues to build. Now, in this new digital world, and as creatives, there are other things, other types of assets, digital assets, stock illustrations, photography, video that you can sell online. You can sell courses. What is it that you are an expert of and can sell? Create a course on it. There's digital downloads that you could put on Etsy. You can create direct to customer t-shirts that you're selling, and that if you were out of the business or not able to devote a lot of time to it, those things exist out there, and you have people that are fulfilling those requests when you're not there. That's the beautiful thing about digital assets is you wake up, oh wow, I got another couple sales. That's amazing. Now initially you had to dedicate some time to build those assets or acquire those assets if we're talking buying businesses or homes or whatever. But that's kind of what's been bouncing around in my head lately. And that Rich Dad Poor Dad book is a good one. Okay, now came out in 1997, and I've been seeing it on the shelves. I've heard about it, especially with this social media stuff that's been going on. Hear bits and pieces. I thought I got the gist of what was going on. I've listened to or read some of the other books in the series, like on taxes and creating a corporation and different things, but I felt like, do I really want to go back to the beginning and listen to something that's 20 plus years old already? Going on 30, 25, 30, crazy. Well, the answer is yes. There's some good stuff in there, and you'll see that a lot of the successful ways of thinking in this day and age kind of resonate, or probably a derivative of the thinking that came from the Rich Dad in that Rich Dad Poor Dad book. So there you have it, my friends. Go out there and create your future. What do you want that to be? Start today. Get excited about it and just do it. Because like someone said recently, I think it was Mel Robbins, is you can't steer a parked car. So that's why it's so important to get moving, because then you can start to see where things are going, where are your successes, where are your failures, how can you adjust and learn and move forward. So don't want to beat a dead horse and keep on going. That's what we're putting down. That's it, my friends. So again, if you've made it to this point, you made it all the way through, congratulations. I thank you. Now get yourself over to the Creator Die store and buy someone a sticker or a t-shirt. Maybe yourself. Maybe your birthday's coming up. Who knows? Show your support. I really appreciate it. And until next time, my friends, keep on creating. Create or die.